Yep, hey, relatives. Good afternoon. It's about 12:30 on Friday, May 21st, and I'm sitting down to technically it's my third cup of coffee, although I'm not going to count my first cup. If you watched my sunrise this morning, you heard me say that I didn't set my alarm because I wanted to get some catch up on some sleep. But I woke up about a half hour before the sun was supposed to rise. It takes about 20 minutes to drive there. And so I decided that I was going to try and get there anyway. So I jumped up, got dressed quickly, and didn't have time to make a cup of coffee, which is usually my first cup. But I did have some iced coffee in the refrigerator. What I usually do at the end of my second day, at the end of each day, is if I don't finish my second cup of coffee, I usually will put it in the fridge and turn it into iced coffee and drink it later that day or the next day. Anyway, but I had that in the fridge, and so I microwaved day-old coffee and drank that this morning. So technically that was a cup, but it doesn't really count as a cup of coffee. And so this technically my third cup, but actually my second cup of real coffee this morning. So I'm sitting down to think about it or to drink it, and just wanted to share a few thoughts with some folks today about a new version of the Bible that's coming out in a few months. But before I begin, let me do as I always do by just acknowledging that I'm speaking to you from Piscataway lands. I live with my family in Washington, D.C., and the Piscataway are the people indigenous to these lands. I want to acknowledge the Piscataway are still here. I want to thank them for their stewardship of these lands, and I want to just publicly state how humbled I am to be living on these lands today. So I got a message yesterday from a friend of mine. Uh, I went to college with her. Her name is Tara Drozdenko, and we've been friends for a long time. And yesterday she direct messaged me on Twitter an article that she thought I might find interesting to discuss, just given my audience, my platform, about a new version of the Bible coming out. And it's a Bible that's being licensed by Zondervan and HarperCollins Publishing, and it is a God Bless America version of the Bible. And I'm going to actually share this with you in the comments section. The article is from Religion Unplugged. There's been a few people tweeting about it. I think these notifications just started coming out in the past month, maybe. But it's inspired by the Lee Greenwood song, God Bless America, and a group in Tennessee sought the licensing from Zondervan, who is a large Bible publisher. And in this version of the Bible, they are including the text of the Constitution, the Declaration of Independence, the Bill of Rights, the Pledge of Allegiance, and the words to the chorus of God Bless America. You hear these things and you read the article, and it first of all just kind of makes you ill. And then you have to wonder, well, is this a spoof? Is it because I've never read the website Religion Unplugged, and so I did some looking around, and I found, sure enough, in the Tennessean, which is a media company out of Tennessee. I'm sharing this now in the comments. They had an article called "Lee Greenwood's Hit Song Inspires New God Bless America USA Bible," or "God Bless the USA Bible," and includes our founding documents. And so there's a few other articles about that. And so I've just been kind of thinking through some of these things and trying to think about, how do I respond to this? Right? I mean, if you follow me, and if you're watching this, most likely you do follow me fairly closely. I have been teaching about the doctrine of discovery. I've been talking about how the founding documents of our country are littered with racism, sexism, and white supremacy. I've been talking about the heresy of Christian empire that is manifest through the doctrine of discovery that has justified our nation's not only mistreatment, but violence, enslavement, and even genocide against African Americans and Native peoples and other marginalized groups. And how this is just a heresy of what Jesus taught. And it's not even close to what he was trying to do through his life and through his ministry. And so when you see something like this, on one hand, you get on edge and you say, well, we need to stop this. This is horrible. This is a perversion of this faith, or of this text. But on the other hand, I mean, the book that I published, right, Unsettling Truth, the ongoing dehumanizing legacy of the doctrine of discovery, it ends. I mean, the book is a flat out rebuke of the Christian church. And it ends by saying, in its current state, the church has no ability, no role in addressing the problems it's created, because its solution to the problems it's created will be to further enhance those problems. If its goal, the solution is going to be to make the nation Christian, which is what caused the problem in the first place. So because the Western Christianity, American church, is so deeply in bed with empire, and the heresy of Christian empire and Christian nationalism is so widespread, not only just through the conservative church and white evangelicalism, but even in the progressive church. And so the church is unable to fix the problems it's caused, because it can't separate itself from, it can't even separate itself far enough to see what the problem is, and to even know what the problem is. And white evangelicals were responsible for electing Donald Trump. White nationalist Christian terrorists attacked the Capitol building. And I mean, this is what this does. This is what this heresy leads to. Not only did it justify and enact enslavement and genocide against Native peoples and African people, but it continues this system of violence, right? We just heard the other day how our nation is selling hundreds of millions of dollars of weapons to Israel, who is, now it's a ceasefire, but literally we're just bombing the crap out of Gaza and the Palestinians, killing dozens and dozens of children, wiping out buildings. And we're selling them weapons. And so this is what this heresy does. And so on one hand, you think protesting this is like, why protest it? This is actually what it does. This is what it's meant to do. It's not listening, clearly. It has no desire to change, clearly. And so my first reaction was, we need to protest this. My next reaction was, why? And actually, by allowing the church, or letting the church just go down its completely heretical path, it actually makes it easier to draw the distinction between what's right and what's wrong. Right? It makes it easier to draw the distinction. So there is a petition. If you go into that article, there's a petition being passed around on iPetitions. I'll share it in here. That petition asks to end this, asking Zondervan and HarperCollins to not publish this version of the Bible that includes the text of our founding documents. But I don't think I'm going to sign it. Not because I don't like that version, not because I disagree with what it stands for, but because this is what the church has come to. This is who the church is. The church doesn't follow Jesus anymore. The church doesn't follow. The church is deeply in both empires. So allow them to go their little way, and it makes it easier to draw the distinction. And if HarperCollins and Zondervan want to profit off of Christian nationalism, which leads to violence, right? The terrorist attack at the U.S. Capitol was spurred on by Christian nationalism. That's on them. So anyway, I'm not going to be protesting this. I vehemently disagree with it. I don't think they should be putting white supremacist documents in the founding of our country. But even if we did protest this version of this Bible being put out by Zondervan, I was looking on their website, right? They have other trash like this as well. They have a kid's book called God Bless America, the Land That I Love, which this little bear goes on a trip with his family around the United States and explores how God has created this country and all the blessings that have come from it. And they go through different states. And just for example, one example is they go to South Dakota. And I actually got this from a preview of the book. And the page on South Dakota, right, which Abraham Lincoln, hanging the Dakota 38, ethnically cleansing, right, people from these lands. This is not Dakota 38. That was in Minnesota. Sorry, but we have the massacre at Wounded Knee, right, in South Dakota, and horrible violence being enacted in these lands. And what it says about South Dakota, it says, next, South Dakota, to see 4 famous men, one good with a sword, one good with a pen. The third from the left is young Theodore, and last is Abe Lincoln, who led us through war. Of course, says nothing about the genocide he enacted against Native peoples, or the fact that the mountain that this faces are carved in was stolen from Native nations. And this is Zondervan putting out this sort of trash as well. And so while we could protest this one version, which it seems over the top, right, to include the Declaration of Independence, the Constitution, the Bill of Rights, and the Pledge of Allegiance, as well as the song to God Bless America in a Bible, it sounds over the top, but this is just what this nation does. And for me, it's not even worth protesting. I want to offer something different, right? I've been trying, not just for the past 2 years through my campaign, but even before that, advocating that we need to remove the racism, the sexism, the white supremacy from our foundations. Advocating that we have to build a nation where for the very first time, we the people truly means all the people. Saying that we need a national dialogue on race, gender, and class, right? Not a Truth and Reconciliation Commission, because that implies there was a previous harmony, but a Truth and Conciliation Commission, right? I've been talking about these things all along. 5 years ago, I went with a committee to my denomination, the Christian Reformed Church, and we brought them a full report on our churches, our denomination's involvement in the doctrine of discovery. We called out what we did with our boarding school and how we mistreated and belittled and dehumanized Native peoples. And our synod took our report. And first they protested it. It was met with protest from many people within the church. And then second, they took that report and they condemned the doctrine of discovery as heresy. And then they went into a period of sharing to talk about how their missionaries who started boarding schools and mistreated Native, how they were actually acting out the Great Commission and were involved in this heresy known as the doctrine of discovery, even though the name of their mission is Rehoboth, which means God has given us room and we shall flourish in this land. And that land that the mission is built on literally was the land ethnically cleansed by Abraham Lincoln during the Long Walk. And right, so what that demonstrated to me is that my denomination, the Christian Reformed Church, is not willing to be a partner in this work, to acknowledge the humanity of everybody. They're not willing to be a partner in this work to decolonize our faith. They're not willing to be a part of this work in building a nation where we the people truly means all the people. They're not willing to be a part of that. And this is what we're trying to do, right? I've known for a long time the church is not a partner in what I'm trying to do. I gave up long ago trying to gain partnership from Christian churches, denominations. There are some who will still approach me individually, both pastors as well as churches, even some denominations, to try to help wrestle with some of the questions they're dealing with, but I don't look to them for partnership. Because they're still enamored with this heresy of Christian empire. Some may be trying to detangle from it, but most are just stuck in it. And so, yeah, they're opposing the work that I'm trying to do, the work that I truly believe our nation needs to do. The Christian church is not a partner in acknowledging the humanity of all people. That's and doing things like this just makes that even more clear. Right? The institution of the Christian church is not interested in addressing these things at a systemic level. There may be individuals who are, there may be in smaller congregations or pieces of these institutions that might want to engage this, but the institution as a whole has long ago stated that they are too interested, they are too consumed with aligning themselves with power and institutional power that they're not willing to give that up. And so this is where I think this is one of the reasons why I would choose not to sign this petition, why I'm choosing not to protest, because I already know the church isn't on the side of this. They're not interested in trying to make these changes. There may be a remnant, a piece within the church that may want to come out, and by all means, they can hear this and they can come along, but the institution as a whole is not interested and is not going to be a partner in trying to make these things happen. So that's why I'm choosing not to sign that petition, why I'm choosing not to, quote unquote, protest this. I'm allowing this instead to just demonstrate the differences. This is why I started a series on my live streams, my social media, called Decolonizing Faith. Because I want to teach more correctly what we need to do to decolonize our faith and the church, and to seek to do like a national dialogue on race, gender. And I'm willing to do that without the partnership of the church. This is why I wrote this book, as a way to, again, deconstruct some of this decenter whiteness, doctrine of discovery, try to correct these things at that level. So this is kind of where, but I appreciate all of you following, joining this conversation. I'm hoping this afternoon I'm going to be able to do another live stream on Selling Truth, my book. I'm going to take my daughter to get her COVID-19 vaccination shot after she's finished with school. She's still doing virtual learning. So when she's done with that, I'm going to take her. And then when we get back from that, I hope to do a live stream regarding chapter 1 from our book, Unsettling Truth, the ongoing dehumanizing legacy of the doctrine of discovery. If for some reason I get delayed, I'll do it tomorrow. But I'm planning to do it this afternoon, probably around 4 is my guess, around 4 o'clock Eastern time. But yeah, other than that, I hope you're all doing well. I hope you have a very good rest of the day. If you have a chance, go back and watch my live stream this morning where I watched the sunrise and just had a chance to start my day in peace and even in prayer. I'm trying to do that more and more frequently, and I invite you to join me in that journey. There's a lot of work we have to do, a lot of stuff we need to do, and the church is increasingly making it known that they are not willing to be a partner in these things. And so I am allowing the church to go their own way, to publish their own heretical documents, to just help make the difference between what needs to be done and where the church is going and how they're going in completely opposite directions. Right? It's the same thing like with the Republicans right now, is the further they go and just bowing down to Donald Trump. Right? Now they're giving up forming a commission. They are just literally they're allowing. And if you would have told these people, if you would have told Mitch McConnell or Ted Cruz or Kevin McCarthy, if you would have told them 7 years ago that that Donald Trump would initiate an insurrection against our nation's capital and violence, which would include even the killing of some of our Capitol Police. If you would have told them that they would be defending this man 7 years later, they would have never believed you. But here we are today, right? They are literally sitting at the feet of Donald Trump, allowing this very broken, very narcissistic, very engaged man to lead them down a path that it makes no sense whatsoever, except that they're lusting after power. Donald Trump has power. He's a white landowning male. He has a ton of power. And Mitch McConnell, Ted Cruz, Kevin McCarthy, most of the Republican Party running after him like dogs after a bone. Not because they like Donald Trump, because they lust after his power. The church is doing the same thing with empire. The church is running after empire, lusting after the power of empire. And the further it goes down that road, the less actually we need to engage with it, right? Because it just becomes more and more clear how they're getting divergent and how they're so off of what is acceptable and what is appropriate. So publishing this version of the Bible, that just makes it more clear who they follow, where they go, what their priorities are. And makes it it makes it easier to move forward without them. So that's what I'm working on. I hope you have a good day, my relatives. Walk in beauty. May we learn how to walk in beauty together. Shahat and Hakonat.